Welcome to Lead Pods, the official leadership podcast from USMB for pastors and church leaders, where our goal is to increase our impact together.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to a special episode of Lead Pods, where for the first time in over 5 years, we are turning the microphone around on our usual host. I'm Lacey Scully. I'm the editor of the Christian Leader magazine, and I am thrilled to be stepping into the interviewer's chair to talk with the man who's usually asking the questions, Matt Ehresman. In addition to being the regular Lead Pods host, Matt is the director of communication and online engagement at Ridgepoint Church in Wichita, Kansas. He's got a background that includes journalism, video production, even a short stint at Focus on the Family. In today's conversation, Matt and I are going to dive into a topic that is reshaping every corner of ministry and it seems like our lives as well, which is artificial intelligence. Matt isn't just watching this from the sidelines. He really is a tech nerd who's been tinkering with these tools since the early days of chatbots and the launch of ChatGPT. He also shares some practical ways we can leverage AI for brainstorming and generally using in ministry settings. We're going to talk also about Matt's line in the sand regarding plagiarism and why he really believes the human element is more critical now than ever. So whether you are an AI expert or you've never opened a chatbot before, this episode is an invitation to stop being afraid and start tinkering. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor and jump into this not AI-generated conversation with our friend, Matt Ehresman.
The January-February Christian Leader explores the Anabaptist faith, how it began, its tenets, and what it looks like today. Pick up your copy or visit our website to learn more about what it means when Jesus is the center of our faith, community is the center of our life, and reconciliation is the center of our work. Read this issue online at christianleadermag.com.
Well, hello, my friends. This is Lacey Scully. I am not Matt Ehresman. I have ripped the mic out of Matt's hand, only to hand it back to him again. I'm thrilled as the Christian Leader editor to have been invited into this space at Lead Pods to connect with the fabulous Matt Ehresman, who you know is frequently asking these fantastic questions, engaging with thought leaders and faith leaders across Mennonite Brethren world and beyond. He really brings so much to the stories that we're trying to learn about and tell. And now we get the blessing and honor to hear from Matt from his area of expertise. If you all don't know, he has got this, these multiple personas that we get to dive into. And one of those is his very talented communications and technology background. So Matt, while you welcome many, I welcome you to Lead Pods.
Thank you, Lacey. You can see I'm blushing. I'm rolling my eyes. I don't take things like this very well. This is super weird. I'm used to being in the other chair. I still have my mic, just to be clear. I'm still here. I've still got the same mic. You didn't take it away from me. I'm still here. This is weird. This will be fun. I'm looking forward to this. It'll be a good time.
It's still very professional. So we're just thrilled, Matt, that you're willing to be roasted a little instead of being the one to roast. No, you do such a great job. And I know that everyone who listens to Lead Pods, those of you who are faithful Lead Podders, are very familiar with Matt and just his expertise. But Matt, for those who maybe don't know you or also maybe just aren't familiar with your background and why you are a good person to be chatting with about AI and technology, why don't you share a little with the family of listeners?
Yeah. So my day job outside of USMB land, so I work full-time at Ridgepoint Church in Wichita. So my title there is Director of Communication and Online Engagement. And I always say I say the name of the title, and then I always follow it with whatever that means. I feel like we're still kind of figuring out what that means. But I've been at Ridgepoint 12 years now, so I've been there for a while, and my responsibilities and titles have changed a little bit over the years, but that's my current gig. So I oversee all of our internal communication stuff, all of our marketing, graphic design, video, web, social. I've now preached exactly 3 times, so I've done that a couple times. All of our external marketing outside of Ridgepoint, do some kind of fun things there. So yeah, I love my job there. It's great. Do a lot of different things there. We've been doing Lead Pods for 5 years now, a little over 5 years, which is crazy.
5 years.
Yes. So I've done some journalism stuff in the past, a lot of video stuff. Right out of school, I worked to Focus on the Family for a little bit. They had a short-lived TV show that I got to help work on. So I did TV stuff at Focus for a little while, did some marketing stuff after that, and then Ridgepoint for a long time. So really, for a long time, just my heart, my goal, my mission, or whatever has just been kind of media for the church. Like I kind of grew up in the era, Lacey, you did too, where like Christian media was frankly just kind of horrible. And I just grew up tired of that. I didn't like that the Christian, quote unquote, Christian options were always the lower quality alternative to the rest of the world. So I wanted to be a part of something that was making high quality, good stuff that was still, honoring to Jesus and furthering the goals of the church. So that's been my goal all along. And I've been lucky that ever since school, I've been able to do that in a couple of different ways. So that's
awesome.
that's who I am, where I'm at.
Well, and I love what you said about media for the church, which I don't think is necessarily a phrase that comes out of many people's mouths. So I love that heart and intentionality that you're bringing to the table when we talk about technology in the church. And I know that a couple of years ago, you interviewed Jason Moore. So again, all of the faithful Lead Pod listeners might remember Jason Moore and Matt talking in 2023 about AI in the church. How is it impacting the church? And I think that you and Jason talked through a few things there that were very interesting. But tell me about your own kind of personal engagement with AI. I know you're a techie guy, and especially being in an area of communications and media, that has, I'm sure, shifted for you personally. Technology has shifted your creative work. So can you tell me a little bit about your engagement with technology as a communicator, but also how AI started to play a role in your own kind of work journey?
Yeah. I've always been kind of a tech nerdy guy. I'm not like the kind of guy who can like build a computer. I don't really know about microchips. Like I'm not that kind of tech guy, but I'm interested in kind of I've always been an Apple guy. I'm just kind of on whatever the latest, newest thing is. I'm just interested in staying up on that. So that's kind of been in my blood, in my genes all along. But I do remember, so if I'm remembering right, I think ChatGPT launched in November of 22, if I'm remembering right. And so I do remember at the time, one thing that I did at Ridgepoint is we had a video podcast for a while called Trending, where me and one of our former pastors, Joe Skillen, every week we would take kind of the top trending topics on Google and Twitter, and we try to talk about it from a Christian perspective. And so I loved being a part of it. It was a really cool thing that we did. And honestly, that's how I first heard about ChatGPT, is we were looking for things to talk about on that podcast. And I don't remember exactly when, but soon after November 22, that was, people were talking about it on Twitter. It was there's a big spike on Google of people looking at it and trying it out for the first time. And so I think really soon after it launched, that's how I first experienced it, as I saw it and I pulled up an account and I started just tinkering with it. And I was like, Joe, we have got to talk about this. This is going to be a big thing. One of the few things I remember as I do, again, ChatGPT, now we all just know it. But at the time we had never heard GPT before. So it's funny because I think in that episode, I kept saying GDP, gross domestic product or whatever. That acronym was in my head. So anyway, now we just all say ChatGPT. But at the time, it was brand new. None of us had ever done this before. There had been some like chatbot type things in the past, and some that we like, even just chatting with support people online. Or I remember, Lacey, were you ever an AOL IM person, like in high school and middle school?
Oh, yes.
Do you remember
We've got mail.
Yes. Do you remember Smarter Child?
Okay, I do not.
Some people
Clearly,
out there
I'm
might
not
know.
as techie as you are, so give me some deets.
Well, it was kind of early ChatGPT, honestly, and this was probably in like, I don't know, 04 or something like that, or early 2000s, where it was a chatbot where you could ask it questions and it would automatically give a response. But it was very early. It was kind of buggy. It was mostly just kind of a kitschy thing more than anything. But anyway, so AI has been around for a long time, but I think ChatGPT was the first time that a lot of us experienced it in this new way. They call them LLMs, the large language models, where it just feels like you can ask it anything and it's got a perfect response automatically. So that felt new. It felt crazy. I think for a lot of people, it felt dangerous. Honestly, it just was new. And I think a lot of us just didn't know what to do with it. And so that's So I made an account early. I've been playing with it ever since. I mean, and now it's really worked its way. I use it every day. I use it all the time. And I think I'm guessing our listeners and probably have a wide range of experience with this. I still know people who've never tried it, like people
Right.
who, they're smart people who they're great with tech, but for whatever reason, they just haven't really gone down that road yet. And that's fine. Like if people listening haven't done it yet, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm sure there are people listening who have never opened it up. And there's probably people like you and I, Lacey, who use it all the time. And so there's a wide range of people out there right now. So
Right.
yeah, what was your question? Did I answer your question? I'm not used to this. What did you ask me?
I think you did answer the question of your first
Okay.
exposure to AI. And I think
Yes.
that's right. I think when you mentioned ChatGPT and it coming kind of into the awareness of it felt very new. But as you referenced, there have been machine learning, there's been artificial intelligence for decades now. And so while it does have a new flavor because of how it presents, it's definitely the technology's been around for quite some time. I remember something that you and Jason had talked about again a couple of years ago of that kind of fear that people had, not just from, wow, like this is kind of new, crazy technology, but it really being a disruptor for industries and changing the landscape of the world. And even just thinking about how does the church talk about or address that kind of disruptive
Yeah.
technology. So I guess I'm kind of curious from your perspective too, what areas have you personally used AI in your church or ministry work? But also I'd really be curious on where you've found it to be useful in other areas. So can you talk about that a bit for us?
Yeah. So yeah, I use it for every episode of Lead Pods. I use it for every week at Ridgepoint as part of my duties. And then, I mean, honestly, I'm using it as a Google replacement now. Like that's ChatGPT is my go-to. Whenever I have something I used to Google, I'd just start with ChatGPT now.
Now tell me why you've replaced Google with ChatGPT. Why?
Google is excellent. I love Google, and it still is very, very helpful, but it's just overwhelming, right? You can search something simple or something complex, and you're going to get 400,000 results, and they're going to be probably a good mix of things that you can trust and things you probably can't trust. Increasingly, a lot of Google results are manipulated by ad dollars. So sometimes the first thing you'll see isn't necessarily the best result, but it's whoever paid the most money to be there. And so if you've got just kind of a simple question where you're just trying to get a quick answer, it's not simple or quick anymore. Like the internet is growing every day, right? So there's more and more and more web pages every second. So it's just getting harder and harder to find good information that's trustworthy, that you can trust and, even respect. And so ChatGPT, instead of giving you 500,000 results of things you have to sort through, it'll come through sources that it deems trustworthy and give you a pretty concise response. And so I think that's the huge benefit is it basically condenses everything in just to the most important kind of soundbite of what you need. And so depending on what you're looking for,
Right.
oftentimes that's a lot more helpful than having to do all that research by yourself.
So a little more digestible, like you're saying.
Totally.
So you're using it for lead pods, you're using it in kind of your church work, you're using it as a Google replacement. What areas do you think AI, whether that's ChatGPT, which I know is one tool, but the reality is that there's a lot of different AI tools.
Yeah.
What areas do you think you have had a lot of success with AI? And then on the opposite end, where has it really fell?
Yeah. So if you're okay with Lacey, I've got, I think there's 11, I think it's 11 things for every episode of Lead Pods. I do 11 things that are all AI related for every episode.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Okay. And some of it's ChatGPT, but there's also some other ones that people may not be familiar with. So there's an app out there that I use all the time now. It's called Descript, Descript, Descript. And you can use it to edit videos. You can use it to edit audio files. Like there's honestly a lot of things it can do. So how I use it for Lead Pods, every episode when we're done, we record on Zoom. So Zoom kicks out a audio recording. So I upload that to this program called Descript. And the first thing it does is it transcribes the episode. So I've got it type out our whole conversation word for word so I can have like a searchable text version of the episode that I can reference. Then they've got, because it transcribes it, one of the great things that it does is it automatically, with one click, it removes all uhs, ums, awkwardly long pauses, any kind of like quote unquote filler word. One click, it just goes through and deletes all of those. Yeah. Which honestly, like years ago when we first started Lead Pods, I mean, I still edit every episode, but I used to manually clip out a lot of uhs and ums, and that takes a long time. And so one little click of a button and Descript does it for me. It saves so much time, and it makes the episode way more listenable, because we all do that, right? Like when we're talking, we just naturally have those kind of tics that make our listening to us speak a little bit more awkward or whatever. So Descript is super good at that. The other thing it does for on the audio side is it has a setting called studio sound. Like I mentioned, we record on Zoom. So everyone's been on Zoom calls, and a lot of times the audio is not great. Like we're in a room that's maybe
echoey rooms.
Echoey. I'm in my home office where I've got a little fridge over here. So like there's a little tiny hum of a fridge that is probably coming through my mic at least a little bit. Or, I mean, sometimes there's like I'm downstairs in my house. We've got our laundry's running. So and there's just noise. There's just noise in the world, right? And so what Studio Sound does is it takes our Zoom audio and it makes it sound like we're in a recording studio. Like I think the quality of Lead Pods, I mean, honestly, it at least matches what I think most podcasts sound like. And so, and a lot of people are in actual recording studios with headphones and noise canceling panels and stuff. And we're just in our offices on Zoom, right?
Right.
But one little click and it makes it sound a whole lot better. So then what I do is I take the transcript, I just copy and paste it into a Google Doc, and I'm able to export a PDF of that. So then I put that PDF into ChatGPT. And then the first thing I do is I ask it for 5 ideas for a title of the episode. So I'm like, listen to this episode. What would you title this? And it's
great. So it's going to title for us this AI. So it's AI generated about AI. I love it.
Yes. No, I'll get back to that. Okay. I always ask for 5 ideas, because if you just ask for one, I'm usually not happy with just one. So it still requires a lot of human editing, which we'll talk about more here in just a second. So I ask it for 5 ideas for a title, and then I have it write a 2-paragraph summary that we put as like the description that you see on your podcast feed or on the website or whatever. So that's generally written by AI. And then I also ask it for 5 to 10 quotes. So give me a handful up to 10 quotes that you feel like are kind of summarize the episode really well, that again we use on the email that everybody gets or the social media posts that go out throughout the week. So those quotes are found from AI. But before I go too much further, let me say, with all those things, whenever I ask it for a title or a summary or quotes, I don't think I ever take exactly what it spits out. I always tweak it a little bit, both sometimes, again, maybe we can talk about this more later. Sometimes it's just flat out wrong. Right. Sometimes it just says things that are not true. And so that's one, again, we talk about this more later, but I'm not ready to totally replace a lot of the human element of the kind of work we do. Like, it's a tool that helps us. It's not a replacement, right? And I think these kinds of things are examples of where sometimes it spits out stuff that's flat out incorrect. Sometimes it says things that I think aren't actually a very good summary. Like, since I was in the conversation, I know what we talked about, and it might highlight things that, like, yeah, we talked about, but that's not really what the gist of the conversation was. And sometimes the quotes, it often will take kind of an idea and make it sound like a really polished quote. It's not a direct quote, and we try to stay as close to direct as we can for those kinds of things. Sometimes it'll take like an idea and plop it into a really polished quote that the person didn't actually say. So again, for all those things, I always go back, double check. I kind of reword it sometimes to make it sound a little bit more like our USMB style, but it still saves me so much time, because again, years ago, I would manually type out, as I was editing, I would type out the quotes that I thought might make a good, promotional quote later down the road. So I would, and when you're editing, I'd have to pause, make sure I type it out just right. Okay, resume. And so that takes, not forever, but several minutes. But that's now something that AI can help me do quickly. So really quickly, 2 more things I do with Lead Pods, then I'll let you ask whatever you want to ask. But there's another really cool website tool that I've started using. It's called, I think, Queso or Case, maybe Queso. I don't know. Quso, however you say that. Queso.ai. And so what I do with that is I upload the video of the interview, and then it does its magic and it spits out usually like 10 or 15 vertical video files that we can use as the reels that we post on Facebook and Instagram. So it watches the whole interview, finds 10, 15 highlights, and spits out little videos that we post online. So again, if you were to manually do that, that would take hours to review a 45-minute video and find 10, 15 highlights and crop them and get them to be vertical and it adds the subtitles automatically. Hours worth of work it does for me in the background. So that's how I use it for lead pods.
Okay. Well, I mean, that is extensive, but I think what you were saying about it being much more collaborative than maybe how it sometimes comes across when people think about an AI tool taking over, where you're bringing to light is, no, I'm giving data to the model, and then it's spitting out something that then I respond to. And I think that's really critical. The human element, I think that is, since ChatGPT and AI has kind of exploded in the last 3+ years, I think that's something that is constantly kind of rising to the surface. The challenge with, you were just talking about accurate information on the internet and do I trust it, do I not? I mean, I think you've mentioned that sometimes it's giving you something that's incorrect. So can you tell me a little bit more about an experience you've had where it has been not well used or it hasn't been a good tool for what you're trying to accomplish?
Yes, that is definitely true. Because I would say, again, like I was talking about Google earlier, I think it is very helpful at these kinds of things, but you do have to always double check it, because I'll give you a couple examples. So in my just personal real world life outside of work, I love the NFL. I watch football. I'm in a couple different fantasy football leagues. And so I was like, okay, can I use AI to help me like master my fantasy football league, right? So
yes. Great resource, great use for this technology.
Great use of my time. Yeah. Yes, 100%. So one week in one of my leagues, Daniel Jones from the Colts is my starter for quarterback right now. Okay, I'm going to bore a lot of people, but just stick with me. Okay. So I was trying to. It was his bye week. So I was like, okay, since Daniel Jones isn't playing this week, who should I start for quarterback this week? And so I looked at who was available in the waivers, and one of the top rated available players was Aaron Rodgers. And so I was like, okay, Aaron Rodgers. So I asked ChatGPT, would Aaron Rodgers be a good substitute quarterback for me this week? And it gave me this long response. And I was like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is a trusted veteran who has great career. And I mean, you know the voice that is
right.
And it started spitting out all this stuff. But then I realized it was pulling information from last year, because it said, although Rodgers is a trusted veteran, he is currently playing for the New York Jets. They have a struggling offense and they're up against this team. And I was like, no, Rodgers plays for the Steelers. Rodgers does not play for the Jets. He plays for the Steelers. And so it was pulling stats from last year, not current. And in fantasy, you need week-to-week stuff, let alone stuff that's a year old. And so his stats from the Jets are way different from the Steelers. So I had to say, like, nope, you're wrong. Rodgers plays for the Steelers. Please give me up-to-date information about Aaron Rodgers. The other thing that I've noticed, and I'm guessing you've seen this too, Lacey, but I use it all the time to edit or like kind of critique like if I'm writing something, kind of a line in the sand that I've drawn. And again, we can talk about this more if you want. I don't want ChatGPT to ever write for me. Like I'm never going to turn in something that Chat wrote. Right. But I do use it all the time to edit or make my work better. It's like if I've written something, I'll put it in there and say, hey, what's confusing about this? How can I be more concise? How would you improve this? Whatever I'm working. And one thing that Chat does, which you can kind of coach it to not do this, but naturally, it is so encouraging and so positive. Like if I write something, it'll be like, Matt, this is excellent. This is top quality. I can't believe this is the best essay I've ever written. And so sometimes I'll be like, okay, like who would you say this sounds like? Like give me who is like a similar author. So I was just curious what it would say. And it'd be like, oh, you sound like the perfect mix of John Mark Comer and Donald Miller and John Acuff. And those are like my favorite authors. And so it's just buttering me out. Like it's just, it's built to be encouraging, right?
Mm.
Which it makes you feel good and it's encouraging, but it's probably not really accurate, right? So sometimes I respond back, you're being too kind. Be truthful. Like, don't butter me up. Give me some actual stuff I can use, and don't be so overly positive. Be like legitimately critical of the work I'm trying to do. So,
Do
yeah.
you tell the AI you are being too kind?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like, hey, that's not true. Thank you, but you're being ridiculous. I want real world help here.
I love it that you're calling AI out on its over complimentary take. That's really fascinating too, because like you're saying, there's this tendency, and I think that this is something that in churches, when we're talking about using AI, that there's kind of a concern about authenticity and using, like you were just saying, using AI with content that's generated in a snap, while people are just desperate for messaging that is genuine and feels authentic. And so I'm curious how you use AI, and then especially in church and when you're working through kind of in creating ministry material, how you kind of ensure that genuine, authentic posture.
Yeah. Like I said, one way I deal with that is I just draw a line in the sand. I'm not going to turn in anything the AI wrote. So I use it as a tool to help me, but I'm never going to let that be a substitute for original content. So that's the biggest thing, I think, is it starts to feel inauthentic and, fake or, robotic when you just turn in whatever it spits out. So I think it's important to use that as a tool. Don't ever use it to completely take over human communication. So that's I think the biggest thing.
Yeah.
One way that is helpful in that regard is sometimes I will say, like, I'm coming from a Mennonite Brethren faith background. So like, here, reference our confession of faith, and that's my worldview. That's where I'm coming from.
Right.
So as whatever I'm working on this, make sure you're referencing that worldview and not whatever your default settings are. You can kind of train it a little bit to think a little bit more like you do, but still, I think you always have to use it as a tool and not let it take over your own responsibility. And always double check, always rewrite it in your own words. I think you just have to do that.
Right. I think we've talked a lot about, some of the ethical concerns, and we've also talked about how you, as a really creative person, are using it. And I think especially in creative work, that's been an interesting place where you have artists and creators, and how you're working with technology to enhance your creativity. I am also I'm also just kind of curious, if you're talking to a pastor or a children's minister or worship leader, can you give us some other ideas about how you might imagine or encourage someone who's not even thinking about using AI as a tool in their ministry work? Are there ways that they could try, or maybe tools that they could explore with, that maybe would open their eyes to, this could be something useful for what I'm doing?
Yeah. So for like music and worship, I think I would say just try something that you do on a regular basis. Try to have it either do it for you or work with you instead of you doing it on your own. Like, just start with something that you do on a regular basis. Try it with ChatGPT or one of the other ones and just see if it can help you. So I'm not a worship leader necessarily, but like I play guitar with our worship team sometimes. And I'm like kind of musical, but really not really. So like whenever I play guitar, often I have to like change the key of a song, or if on guitar, sometimes you have like a capo to help you change what key you're playing in. So I'll use it for things like, hey, I want to play, whatever song we're doing this week. It's written in G, but I'd like to play it in C. Can you help? What chords would I need to do if I want to play it? If it's written in G, but I want to play it in C, and it'll just spit it out for me. So that'd be for music. Use it for that kind of for changing keys, things like that. I know for like kids ministry or whatever, I think one of the biggest things they can help with is just idea generation. Be like, hey, we're talking about Jonah this week. The kids have heard this story 8 times already. What's a way that I can incorporate this into this story they've already heard? Or what's a craft idea that we, other than the Jonah on the popsicle stick. Like, what else can we do to try to bring home Jonah to our kids? And I'm surprised it comes up with good stuff. I would say
Hmm.
if you have to do something that you would need to do anyway, yeah, take advantage of it and see what ideas it can spit out. It'll
Hmm.
probably give you some fresh ideas that you may not have thought of before.
I love what you're saying too about brainstorming. I think that that's been something that's opened some people's eyes when I've used an AI tool in the past that they didn't even think about. Like
Yeah,
again, just give me ideas for an icebreaker activity for youth group. Give
yeah,
me, ways that I can even what formula do I need to write in this spreadsheet to get all the first names in one column, all the last names in one column, and all of the
yeah.
email addresses in another? Which, if you're a spreadsheet person and you can
Hmm.
do that easily, great. But if you're a little like, well, that's not my area of expertise. And I know with a lot of folks who are in ministry or supporting ministry, they're asked to wear different hats. And one of them frequently is administrative. And
Yeah.
maybe they don't have that skill, but
Hmm.
using a tool can be really beneficial in shortening their time and kind of speeding up the process. So I love what you're saying about brainstorming being a great use for AI, for sure.
And one thing I found, it often saves time, which is great, but it also often just saves brain space and energy. Like, and I don't necessarily think that's lazy. Like sometimes it takes a few minutes to type out a perfect prompt that'll get you exactly what you want. And so honestly, sometimes it may not save me as much time as I think it does, but it just is one less thing I have to think about, which,
Mm,
and I think in all of our lives, most of us are overloaded and probably have too much on our minds already. So that's one of the biggest blessings to me too, is again, I don't think that's lazy. I think that's just smart. You're taking advantage of tools that are at your disposal. One less thing you
mhm.
have to spend mental capacity on that you can spend it on something else. So
Right.
it helps a lot in that regard.
What would you say to especially like if you were introducing AI tools? Because again, we've talked a lot about ChatGPT, but in almost every single software that I come across, there is an AI tag on or
Mm.
bot or connection point. So again, while we've referenced one particular tool, the reality is that there's probably a number of them embedded into your cell phone, into
Yeah.
your the software that you're using, whether it's at work or personal. I guess I'm kind of curious when you introduce or you think about introducing AI tools to a ministry team, or if you were talking to someone who is interested in doing this at their church and saying,
Hmm.
hey, everybody, like we're going to try to start using this AI tool. How would you encourage them to kind of roll that out to a
Hmm.
team and especially dealing with folks who maybe feel like technology doesn't belong in ministry? Like
Hmm.
how would you coach someone through that experience?
First of all, I would encourage people just to try it. Like if you are new and if it's scary or if you feel like you don't know where to start or whatever, I think you'll be surprised at how intuitive it is. So just fire up, just go to chatgpt.com. You don't even have to make an account to get started. So just try it. Just do something silly. If you don't know where to start, like one thing that we do at our house is I'll have it generate coloring pages for my kids.
I love
So
it.
my daughter will be like, I want a coloring page of a dragon going swimming in an ocean of syrup or whatever. And it just like spits out a great coloring page. And
Oh my
so
goodness, I'm doing that tonight. I
it's
love
awesome.
it.
It's awesome. So just if you want to do something silly, or if you want to try, you look around your house and you're like, okay, I've got a banana, some nuts, and some cinnamon. What could I make with this? And just you'll probably be surprised at what it pops out with that. So just I would say just try it. And then for people who are concerned, I always tell people it's just a tool, right?
Mm,
So tools are good and bad, and they're great and they're horrible. There's kind of the famous philosophical example of a hammer, right? You can use a hammer to build something wonderful, or unfortunately, you could use a hammer to probably kill someone, like if you really wanted to, right? And so I think of most tools are basically neutral. Like they can do great things or they can do horrible things. It's just how you use it and your personal ethics behind how you're going to use a
mm,
tool. So to me, I mean, ChatGPT is different. When you're kind of fooling around with intelligence, you can do some pretty dangerous, horrible things if you're not careful. So I understand some people don't like that analogy because if this feels different, and it is different, but I don't think it's as different as we think it is. Like you can do all kinds of crazy things with Google or Facebook or again, a hammer or a piece of cloth. Like it just your own ethics have to drive how you're going to use these things. So to answer your question.
That's a really great way to bring it into focus, I think, for people who maybe have some anxiety about giving it a try or feeling like it's a little scary or unsure. I think something else I'm really been amazed at is how quickly it changes. I think that's something, especially in this current world that we're living in with technology. I think technology makes things feel faster, but AI makes them 100 times faster.
Yeah.
How do you stay informed without getting totally overwhelmed?
Again, mostly just kind of trial and error, first of all. But then I also recommend if you want to stay on top of it, try to find someone who's just a little bit further ahead than you are and follow them. So if that person has like an email newsletter or you just follow them on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, just keep an eye on what they're doing. And I personally, I think it's helpful to find someone who is just a few steps ahead of you. Like don't go after the person who's the expert because they're probably going to be so far ahead of you, you may not even be able to follow what they're doing. But find someone just a couple steps ahead of you and just keep an eye on them. Like, how are they using it? Just for a quick plug, I don't really know this guy. If you just Google Greg Swan, he's someone I follow who has a weekly email newsletter that's kind of tech marketing stuff 101. So he is 5, 6, 7 steps ahead of me. And so I just kind of keep an eye on what he's doing. He shares about new tools I haven't heard about yet and finds ways to make them practical. So find someone like that who you can kind of keep an eye on and see how they're using it and see how it can trickle down into your world.
What's something you want to try to use AI for that you haven't done yet?
That's a good question.
That's why they gave me the mic, of course.
Yes.
I'd have at least one good question.
Oh, you've done great. Lacey, you're doing it excellent.
Oh, wait, you are being too kind. Be more critical.
I'm a real person, Lacey. I'm a kind person for real.
That's right. So true. It's so true.
Well, I don't know how to answer your question exactly, but there is one more tool that I might want to tell people about that they may not know about. So I don't know if I'm taking over my job here again.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm curious. Do you know about Notebook LM? Do you use Notebook LM, Lacey?
Oh, that one sounds familiar to me, but I haven't used it. No.
Okay. So it's an AI thing made by Google. And I think it's maybe the most helpful one that I think most people don't know about. So if you want to try something new, just Google Notebook LM. It's a Google thing. So if you already have like a Gmail or a Google Docs account, you already have an account with them. So what I like about it is it's kind of like ChatGPT, but instead of scouring the whole internet for answers, it only reads what you give it. For example, I'm currently in the Tabor GSM, the master's program, right?
Right.
So I want to be really, really clear. Again, I do not turn in anything that ChatGPT or AI writes, but I use it as a tool all the time. So
right.
If any of my professors are listening, I want to be really, really clear. I read all my assignments. I watch every lecture. Okay. So
every lecture. He's an A+ student.
You know what? I can say with full integrity, I'm watching and listening to what I'm supposed to be doing. But what I do, so an example of how I use this is, for this program, we have 3 or 4 lectures a week that we're supposed to watch. So I do watch all of them. But a lot of people may not know. So YouTube will give you a transcript of any video on YouTube. So what I do after I watch the lectures is I copy and paste the text from all 3 of those lectures into this Notebook LM. And then what's cool is I can say, okay, what did Wendell say about preaching from the Old Testament? And it will only tell me what Wendell said about preaching from the Old Testament. So it's not searching the whole internet. It's only searching the content that I give it. So it is so helpful because it's a great way to give yourself summaries. It does cool things like it can make a quiz for you. So based on the content you upload, it can give you a quiz. They can do flashcards. One crazy thing it does is it can actually spit out a podcast. So it will create a podcast based on the content that you give it. Okay, it's crazy. And so there's 2 voices going back and forth. and they will reference only the content that you give it. And it's crazy.
Wow.
It's very, very crazy. But I find it so helpful because, again, like in a world of information overload, right?
Right.
It's not searching everything that's ever been published, only referencing specifically what you give it. And then the other nice thing is it footnotes everything. So I can say, hey, what did Wendell say about preaching from the Old Testament? And then there'll be a little footnote, and it says like, okay, at 1609 in this video, here's what he actually said. So again, for me, that's been so helpful because it's a way to study, right? Or review your notes or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, to me, this is not cheating. I could do all this myself, right? But it's just saving me a lot of time,
Right.
just taking advantage of a new tool. So that's another one. If you haven't done it before,
Yeah.
I encourage you to open it up and just play with it because it can do a lot of really cool things.
I think that's fantastic too. And what you're thinking about as far as study, and maybe someone's even considering, I really like this series of videos. I want a Bible study on it. Or if you have
Yeah.
a small group and you are reading a book together and you want some questions, like, sure, let's pull some questions from this text and
Yeah.
share those. I think that's a really great tool to enhance your experience with a certain text, and not, like you're saying, with the entire internet. Because I absolutely agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes technology just feels overwhelming, because there's the filter is sometimes it's
Yeah.
not there. So I
Right.
think that's helpful when AI does kind of filter some information to you. Now, of course, sometimes it's just completely wrong, like you said.
Yes.
And I think what you were saying too, of having the human element, is just so critical. My husband, who is in data and AI and does build computers in his free time, he's been extremely frustrated recently because people have been using AI to code.
Yes.
And it's called vibe coding, apparently.
Yeah.
And when they do that, things break because they don't understand how to code. And then people like my husband, who do, have to correct. And I think that's something to remember too, that, whatever you're using it for, you have to have some human involved, because there's errors out there. So yeah, I love what you were saying too about just having more humanity
Yes.
involved. I know we're getting low on time. I set
Yes.
I set a stopwatch just to make sure
Okay.
that
We want to stop talking.
No, you're doing great. And I'm so grateful to hear your experience too, Matt, because I know you are very creative and you're very technically savvy. And I was just reflecting about how this is kind of the newest thing, or has been one of the newer things in technology that's really, as one of my colleagues once said, sucked the oxygen out of the room. It is the conversation that has taken over technology. But my guess is with the way that technology moves, that there's going to be a new thing in the future and a new thing in the future, especially from your perspective as someone who communicates for a living. That's your bread and butter. That's what you do. And you are familiar with change. But can you maybe give a word of encouragement to the congregation, if you will,
Yeah.
of the rest of us, who, kind of giving us a word in the reality that technology is going to probably keep on shifting and changing, and just what kind of posture we should have in this world.
Yeah. So again, in
So this
general,
could be your fourth sermon. Your fourth sermon right here starts. Go.
well, I don't know about a sermon. I don't have much biblical stuff to back me up on this, but just from experience, I'll tell you this. So whenever I talk about this, I do encounter people who are still scared and nervous about it. And I just want to say, like, I understand. It's true that this is new and scary. And if you're kind of unsure about this, or maybe you're flat out against it, like, I just want to say, like, I get it. Like, it is scary and it's new. And so I don't fault anybody who's coming at it from that kind of perspective. What I've experienced, what I'm learning, and what I typically tell people, especially if they're afraid of like it taking over, or they're coming after our jobs, or like, what's the economy going to look like when we don't have to do jobs anymore? One thing, I can't remember who I first heard this from, so I can't give proper credit, but a quote that's been floating around is, AI isn't going to take your job, but someone using AI might. So that's what I would say is, don't be too scared, because like the example you mentioned with Jeff and his coding, it's again, one of the kind of scary things about AI is, another quote I keep hearing is, AI is the worst right now than it ever will be. Like it's only going to get better from here, which is kind of a crazy thing to wrap our minds around. But for the foreseeable future, this might change really far down the road, but there's still going to need to be a person who knows how to use it in their specific field. So, like, yes, maybe someone can code a website and kind of get by without hiring someone like your husband, but there's still going to be, we still need people like your husband to fix the issues, or you still have to at least know the lingo to, again, even know what to ask it. Like some of the stuff's so complicated, you even have to have the right prompts to get it to do what you want. At Ridgepoint, I work really closely with our graphic designer, Chloe. She's one of the most talented people I've ever met. And so if I was a graphic designer, I'd be a little nervous right now because AI is doing a lot of pretty incredible design work. But I would still say you still need the human element of it, because if anybody listening just pulls up your Facebook or Instagram, you're going to see a ton of what they're calling AI slop, where it's just image after image or video after video that you can tell it's not real. Like there's just something about it that's just a little bit off, or even if it looks real, it's just, you just know that it was produced in a couple of seconds without much, soul, or for a lack of a better word. And so even like in image generation or video generation, like we use it at Ridgepoint to make graphics and help us with videos and stuff. But again, we never just publish what it kicks out. We still go in and edit it and tweak it, or we use it as part of the project, but make it bigger and grander. So I honestly, there's a few fields where it probably will take, quote unquote, take over faster, and some jobs might be changed. But I would say for the vast majority, you're still going to need a human who knows what they're doing to use the tool. Like it's not going to completely take over. You still need someone who knows what they're doing in order to really implement the tool in the real world that we're in. So I think we're far away from it taking over in the way that some people are afraid that it might. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just that encouragement of, yeah, it's going to probably be disruptive. I mean, that's what we've kind of heard it called in the technology. And so was electricity, and so was running water. There's been plenty of disruptive technologies, and people learn how to shift into new roles. Matt, you've done a great job. I think as a guest, we should have you on again sometime.
I feel like I talk too much.
No, you did great. You are the guest this time, so you should increase the amount of talking.
Okay. Our word count went up.
Your word count. Do you have anything, kind of parting words that you would want to share with your listeners who are avid listeners about AI or technology, or anything else that you'd like to kind of part with?
Lacey, you did a great job conducting this interview. Great job. You did a wonderful job. And this is not the kind AI bot. I'm being serious. You did great. But just to kind of wrap it up, again, if you haven't yet, try it. Don't be afraid of it. Just start tinkering. And I really think for most people, it really can be helpful. So give it a try.
Great. Well, Matt Ehresman, it's been an absolute pleasure. I am not a chat bot that has been AI generated for this conversation. I am actually a human. Probably should have said that at the beginning, but spoiler at the end, this was not AI generated. But it's just been a pleasure to chat with you. And thank you for sharing your experience and your encouragement. And I think the takeaway for everyone is, whatever role you're in, whatever you're doing, whether it's in the church or outside, that there is a tool here that can help you with your work and bless your ministry and free up your time too. So thanks, Matt Ehresman, for being our Lead Pods guest today. And we'll see if we can get you back on the show sometime, okay?
Thank you, Lacey. You did great. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks. All right. That was a fascinating look behind the curtain of both this podcast and the rapidly changing world of church technology in general. Matt has really shown us that AI can feel like a disruptive technology, but it's really a neutral tool, just like a hammer, and it really depends on the ethics and the intention of the person using it. I honestly have learned a lot from Matt. I now use ChatGPT to create summaries for leading children's groups and making coloring pages, which I will tell you have been very well received. I've also been able to leverage Notebook LM myself, which has really helped with creating summaries and making main points for long documents. I really appreciated how Matt's used this technology to make Lead Pods sound professional and also remove my ums from recordings too. So I also just want to say I really appreciate Matt's reminder that these tools can't replace our human souls or our authentic voices. Thank you so much for joining us for this special episode of Lead Pods. I hope this conversation has encouraged you to trade fear for curiosity as you explore how these tools can really bless your ministry and hopefully free up your time for what matters most. I'm Lacey Scully, and just to be safe and clear, I am a real human and not an AI-generated bot. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Lead Pods. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing to our show wherever you're listening today. Learn more by visiting usmb.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next time as we learn more practical tools to increase our impact together.